FM.
All right, y'all, welcome back to the show. It's Anti-War Radio. I'm Scott Horton. I'm talking with Eric Margolis. He wrote a book called American Raj, Liberation or Domination, Resolving the Conflict Between the West and the Muslim World. And we're talking about a young Afghan, Bart Simpson, causing a run on the bank yesterday simply by walking into the lobby and saying, "What do you mean there's no money?" And everybody went, and guess what? The bank didn't have the cash. What's going on over there, man?
Well, Scott, the Afghans have been truly blessed now that we have liberated them from the Stygian medieval Islamic darkness into which they had been plunged, that they were part of the liberation process was bringing American bankers in to advise them, and so they had some of the finest minds of Lehman Brothers and Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch, etc., to advise them on this banking, which a lot of Afghan-American-backed Afghan bigwigs kept their money.
Oh, you're bumming me out, man. Is that really true?
Yes. And
well, I guess it has to be, right?
Yeah. The bank invested a lot of its ill-gotten gains because there's a huge outflow of money from Afghanistan. The aid money that we're pouring in there, the bribes that we're paying the Afghan warlords, plus the opium money, I mean, that's the billions of dollars, is flowing. There's more money going out of Afghanistan than into Afghanistan. So this bank was handling a lot of this money as well as local deposits and was channeling a lot to Dubai, which is really the first stop out of Afghanistan. And these financial wizards who were running the bank put a lot of money in Dubai property just before it crashed. And word got out that there weren't no money in the bank, not that there ever is, mind you. And so a run has started on the bank, but it looks very bad for the American-run government because, they're supposed to be bringing stability.
Man, in the larger sense, too, it reminds me of this thing, kind of a broader look at history or whatever going on. I saw this deal, and it kind of goes to what we were talking about with the other Scott Horton a little while ago, but where, a lot of people miss the Soviet Union. They see the American way, and they say, that's your freedom and capitalism. We don't want your way. Things used to be better for us back the old way. And, I see Muslims protesting with signs sometimes that say, damn freedom or something, or, because the freedom that we provide, what we call freedom, is really this fascist, imperialist betrayal of all that America's supposed to be about. And so, same reason everyone in South America likes socialism so much, because all they've ever seen of capitalism is a bunch of, basically fascist oligarchs, with guns, not with free markets,
Well, that's too often true. But I've got to say, the Soviet Union life there was pretty miserable, too. I covered it. The only people who liked it well were the Communist Party bigwigs. They lived like Turkish pashas. And retirees who had a steady pension and a roof over their head. That was ripped away when the communist system collapsed, and there is nostalgia. But there's nostalgia for Taliban, too, because I have to say two things about Taliban. Number one, Taliban were the only honest people in the region, and they remain so. All the other Afghans government and its henchmen are deeply corrupt.
Well, the Taliban were mean as hell, though, weren't they?
They were mean tribesmen from the mountains, but they were honest, and the Taliban government was pretty much incorruptible. And just the way a lot of these Islamic governments, like in Hamas and Hezbollah, they are honest, and that's why people support them, because they want honesty, honest officials, honest government services. The other point that's important to remember is, we're always talking about democracy. People want democracy. No. In the Islamic world, what they want more than democracy is justice. And there is no justice today under the dictators, that the U.S.-backed dictators who run most of the Muslim world. There's no justice for many of its people. There's no justice in Afghanistan, for example, or in Iraq. And the only people who did have just courts were, once again, these terrible people, the Taliban and Hamas and Hezbollah, who brought quick and honest justice to the people.
So this kid started chatting with me on the Facebook, and it turned out he was in Karachi. And so I started asking him a bunch of things instead of him asking me a bunch of things. And one of the things that he said, Eric, was that he's just counting the days till the coup d'etat, that the Zardari government and the parliament are such a joke, and especially with the flooding, it's Hurricane Katrina. If people remember what that did for George Bush's credibility, finally it broke it. The Iraq War wasn't bad enough. It was too far away. It was really Katrina that did it. Well, this is Katrina times 1,000,000 or something, like we talked about on the show last week, Eric. And he was saying the military is going to take charge, and it's a matter of days or weeks.
Well, I think, Scott, in my view, the military already has taken charge. It's quite some time ago. This all went almost unnoticed in the American media, but Washington just engineered the promotion, the extension of the term of the chief of staff of the Army, General Kiani, and the head of ISI intelligence, General Shuja Pasha. These two men were due to retire. Their term of duty had retired, and they were supposed to rotate out and retire and open up the way for younger officers to be promoted and come up the ranks. Well, Washington violated Pakistani precedent and internal policy by getting these people's terms extended by 3 years, which is just unprecedented. What it means is that they are the real government of Pakistan. Nobody's paying any attention to Zardari or to Prime Minister Gilani, who are just sort of paper cutouts. The real powers with the army. We've engineered another coup d'etat in Pakistan, and the military men are calling the shots now.
Well, now, I think you told me before that the absolute worst-case scenario, which you did not see as something coming soon, but was the kind of thing that we could end up making happen, would be the military and the intelligence services falling apart, dividing between themselves and going to war, and Pakistan coming apart, because after all, just like any other state, it's a big artificial mess, a pretend line on the ground enforced by mobsters with rifles at the least, and so there's nothing really natural about it. It's held together with force, and if the people doing the holding together with force can't hold themselves together, then it gets better or worse, I guess.
Well, it is.
Question. They got nukes. That's the big deal here.
Which are very carefully controlled and well guarded. But no doubt Islam is the glue that holds Pakistan together. It's made from disparate provinces that have nothing in common, don't like each other, speak different languages, are traditionally not one. And the hope when Pakistan was created in 1947 was that the sense of Islam would be a unifying factor. There's another concern, Scott, that we have to worry about beside everything falling apart, and that is that go back to 1970, a huge typhoon hit what was then East Pakistan, today Bangladesh. That's just on the right side of India, between India and Burma, and near Calcutta. And tens or hundreds of thousands of people were killed by this cyclone. And there was huge unrest. And the Indians created a fake anti-Pakistani resistance movement called the Mukhti Bahini. And that started fighting with the Pakistani garrison of East Pakistan. And that, again, the Indian army then intervened to restore order. And the net result of it was that East Pakistan, which had been an integral part of Pakistan, was broken away from Pakistan, became the independent state of Bangladesh. The reason I recall this is because if Pakistan goes wobbly and there's turmoil inside Pakistan, the same scenario could happen. India would certainly be tempted to do the same thing.
Which means that the generals would be tempted to use atomic weapons to stop them.
If they got sufficiently frightened. Pakistan's nuclear weapons are really for last-ditch defense of the country because India is 7 times bigger than Pakistan. They'd use it if Indian tanks were rolling across the border and to the Indus River.
All right, so what's the future of this conflict? Well, inside Pakistan, what's the future?
More deterioration. Pakistan is totally bankrupt now. It has no money to repair the bridges and the dams and the electrical lines, and everything was destroyed by these terrible inundations. They're going to have to rely more. They just got a $450 million loan from the International Monetary Fund, or World Bank. They're going to be beggars again, living on American handouts, more dependent on the U.S. than ever.
All right. Well, thanks again for all your insight and information. I always appreciate it very much.
You're welcome, Scott.
Everybody, that's Eric Margolis. EricMargolis.com is his website. American Raj is the book. It's at Amazon.com.